Get the chair in position. That should do it. Yeah. Great. So, feet down. Sit up a little bit and rubbing your hands together. Tapping over your face. Over your head. Down to one shoulder. Arm. The side. Belly. And then down to your legs. Okay. Right, so sit back. And this regular first stage in a way after a little warm up is this feeling of emptying, of a kind of letting go of tightness in your body, tension in your body. Sometimes that feeling of being just a little bit kind of stuck or stagnant, as it's referred to in Chinese medicine. Notice your in-breath, notice the freshness of your in-breath. In-breath is always that little bit clearer, colder than the out-breath. So that's an exchange from that kind of murkier feeling to a clearer feeling that we want to try and just begin to feel all the way through the body. I like the images of spring mist for the in-breath, autumn fog for the out-breath, that sense of breathing in that spring-like energy into your body, I think is quite a nice one. Use that if it works for you. So then when we come to the upright position, we're looking for the same quality again. It's going to be a little bit trickier when we're upright. So to create the environment for that change in state, if you like, to take place, we have to think carefully about our posture, how we're actually being held upright. And bring your weight forward and then imagine somebody sitting behind your chair, pulling you back into the chair so that gradually your head and your shoulders come up, almost like your head is floating up. And this lengthening through your back, through your spine. Hips sinking down, supported from your hips and your feet. And whether we're seated or whether we're standing, this is a kind of, not effortless, but it's a very gentle way of bringing yourself upright, which then you complement that sinking back of your hips by just pulling your chin back a little bit. And that will raise this ridge of bone at the back of the skull, the occipital ridge. So you just get this gentle drawing out of your spine from above and below. So we start to feel a little bit taller, but without sort of forcing that. And you know, we just say, it can be a bit tired sometimes with the current circumstances. I remember a friend of mine in Glasgow who used to teach quite sort of poor people, quite ill people in Glasgow. And I said to him once, if you can sum it up in one idea, what are you trying to get across to people? You know, because these are people often they probably weren't going to take up Tai Chi in a very deep way or whatever. So what was it he was trying to get across? And he used a really interesting phrase. He said he thought about it carefully. So it was a good answer. He said he was trying to raise spirit, and this sense of this, you know, coming up gently, not forcing yourself upright because you can't sustain that, but this sense of just opening up. I think is very much related to that. In Chinese medicine, the spirit is referred to as the Shen and has this really expansive quality. So this simple adjustment of posture, this allows for this letting go and this filling up with a fresher energy. And also just that sense that you can, you know, sit comfortably, you can sit upright, you can open or stand upright without straining, and that increases that feeling of space within the body. So anytime you want to, you could just bring your attention back to your breathing and that fresher quality, if that's at all meaningful to you. Or maybe to the out breath to release the stagnant quality. It's just something, you know, it's another tool that we can bring into the practice. So then just turning your head gently. And then the shoulders, keeping that nice soft feeling all the way through your body, trying to just resist the urge to strain. As often it's almost like a kind of, it's almost like somebody's pushing, go harder, strain, stiffen up. Just reminding yourself that you don't need that, and that there is this stronger quality that we start to appreciate that actually helps to support it. So we really don't need the straining. And then going forwards, hands down by your sides, winding around. And then, so you're winding up silk thread around your hands and your wrists. And then back the other way. Rest your hands and ease forwards and push back. So remember that feeling of your head floating up, like if you imagine a helium balloon on a piece of string, and there's just that very slight pull, not at all uncomfortable. And as you go forwards, just trying to maintain that. So there's this gentle drawing out of your spine through the whole practice. spine is referred to as the pearl necklace or the string of pearls. And you're just gently drawing it out. Turn your body a little. On to the other side. And then around. So your spine gently floating around, almost like it was very gently massaged. Not too big a movement. And that massaging quality furthers that sense of releasing. We sometimes refer to these exercises as internal massages. Just as somebody might take hold of a muscle on your shoulder and just do a gentle squeeze, and when they release, you get that feeling of letting go. Same thing anywhere really in your body with these movements. Change direction. These are all qualities that we can identify in these very simple exercises, but also we want to try and find in the whole practice. Now, one knee up, step out, heel, toes, push gently into the ground, just to get a sense of now finding the ground beneath the feet. Pull back. And then on the other side. Good, and bring your feet down. Hands drop down. So then just rotate your arms back, feel how your chest opens nicely, not straining, and ease forwards. So you can feel the movement as this sort of the agent of that massaging quality, flowing from front to back or from one part of your body to another in one way or another. Depends on the exercise, of course, exactly how that happens. So here, you might feel this kind of movement from your chest and your ribs to your back and forwards again to your chest and your ribs. And then change into fisherman castanet. And then rolling the ball in. With that slight pull on your arms, so your fingers were somehow stuck in mud. And you were just using your feet to push your shoulders back, pull your fingers out of the mud. So it's almost like, just for a moment, you can feel through your fingers and the whole of the length of your arm, that your arm's just lengthening out and then contracts. Just very slight dynamic within your body, extending, contracting, like a piece of elastic that you're pulling on, which then gives and pulls back. And again, maybe with that sort of pulsing, massaging quality in your arms and your hands, any areas that feel a bit blocked, just able to release. And then pigeon spreads its wings. Here, nice and open, expansive, and then just gently pushing in with that, again, that feeling of releasing, filling and emptying, the phrase often used. And then pushing a wave. And punch with both fists. And coming back to pigeon spreads its wings, 3-part sequence. One more round after this one. Take your time. No rush. And winding your hands out. This time, turn them all the way so they just come in front of your hips. Let them drop down here. You're not straining in that final stage of the movement. Now, bring your hand in, get that pin of just drawing into the center of your body, and then that whole area expanding like a ball, pushing up and down, like a wave, moving up and down through your upper body. Again, with that gentle, soothing, massaging quality. But that's soothing but energizing, because you're replacing that sort of stale energy with the fresher quality. You might every now and then try and just coincide that expanding stage with a breath in. Don't try and do it all the time, but with that in-breath again, that freshness, that spring mist. One more round. And then wild goose. Once more. Heart in the clouds. Again, love the expansive feeling, but don't strain for this. Push your arms up just to a point where you're comfortable still. Dragon plucks the stars from the sky. One last time. Yeah. Pushing in two directions. That same feeling of expansion from your center. And of course, if that were a ball expanding, it would expand in all directions. So you choose which direction to let your arms go in. Next time add the turn, so two directions become four directions. The extra two is still the pushing out, but with that turning in hips, your waist. So again, the movement very much coming from that center part of your body. Now, scooping the sea and looking at the sky. We can get this one working correctly, drawing the hips back, lifting that, bring the shoulders up so we're not straining. You do get this lovely sense of openness. And as the name suggests, you're looking up at the sky. So the image is also quite an expansive one. And then grasping the tiger's ears, that same expansiveness running up through your back. switch sides. And change. Repeat back. Now the archer. So, pushing out, turning your head gently, opening the chest, and then releasing, putting the opening across your back. One more on each side. And then bear play, this new exercise we've started looking at, starting with this sort of movement in your hips and your shoulders, kind of rolling quality, moving a little bit towards the side of the shoulder that's coming forwards, the hip and the leg. And just feel again that movement in your back and your spine, hands down by your sides, and like the bear's paws. I always feel it has a slight, almost a quality of a swagger. Yeah. I've never really seen a bear other than in zoos and in film, but I always get the feeling, you know, they're quite big animals, aren't they? They kind of wander around the woods like they own them, I imagine. They probably do. Bear play, nice movement for your back and your shoulders, but don't overdo it, obviously. And this time, down and turn out. So you draw the hand out, turn it palm up, And from this going into hitting a ball in front of the shoulder, trying to maintain some of that sort of energy, that feeling of movement through your back. The thing with bear play is that we actually allow the shoulders to roll. We don't normally do that. We wouldn't do that in this exercise. But it can point us, draw our attention to a quality of movement that we can then almost imagine in all the other exercises. The cow gazes at the moon. And then you let your hands drop down, and as you turn, once again, you take your weight into one leg and turn, and we go into wind blows the birds. Expanding, contracting, that same rhythm, filling and emptying if you prefer that. Opening and closing is another way of describing it. So each of those ways of describing it will have some kind of value for some of the movements, some of the time. A lot depends on which movement you're doing, what you're looking for. So if you're trying to still work with this spring mist quality, then it might help you to think in terms of your body emptying out and then filling up, for instance. So. Good, and then rest. Let's come back to the sitting position. Get your feet and your hips right, and then just really see if you can kind of register, note the feeling in your upper body. Remember that lengthening of your back, and the support from within that helps that sense of releasing, of letting go of tightness and stiffness. Because this is a quality that you want to try and bring into your standing postures. A little bit more difficult with the standing, I think. It's physically a bit more difficult anyway. But having a sense of what you're aiming for is definitely a help. And then once again, rubbing your hands together. Tapping over your face. Over your head and neck. Down to one shoulder. And your arm. the other side. Part of your chest. Your belly. And your legs. Good. And stand. So remembering that quality in the upright posture, and this is something that I think is really very special about Tai Chi. Is this idea that what we often associate with a great deal of effort, standing up straight, we often find ourselves doing that, actually needn't carry that kind of strain with it. It's not effortless. There are things we were doing, but it's the type of effort that we make. And the key thing here for me is the dropping back of your hips. So for instance, if I just demonstrate this with, I'll use this. So if you imagine this as your back or your spine, and where my fingers are, about my legs, where the hips are. And the thing is, we've got a heavy weight here. We've got the weight of the head. And although it's a short lever, if I can just simply push down on that, the top will come up. If I'm here and I'm trying to push up, it's quite a strain. It's simple leverage. If you go to a play park with a child and put them on one end of a seesaw, you go to the other end and pull down. Yeah, you don't try and heave them up. And although, as I say, it's quite a short lever, the principle is still the same. And importantly, the thing that is going to draw your hips back to draw your head up. So from this position, say, or if we're kind of hunched over, is pull of gravity acting here on your hips and your lower back, and just drawing up. So the very thing that is pulling us down can also be transformed into pulling us upright, which I think is wonderful. So this is why, again, the posture becomes so important. You just bring your weight a little bit forwards and then sink your hips back. And it's so different to this kind of, well, I've got to force myself to stand up straight, because you do this and then it's worn out sort of thing. Whereas this leaves you with that open feeling and kind of reveals that inner strength that I talk about, that inner structure. And then sinking down and pushing up. Again, expanding, contracting, filling and emptying, whichever way suits you, wherever you're putting the sort of emphasis in the movement that you're making. And then change into the wild goose. And part in the clouds. One more time. We can stand again. Shake it. So all these things that we do about, when we do the rocking forwards and backwards and finding our center of balance, they all contribute to this feeling in the upper part of the body. We're going to do standing version of bear play, since we've been doing it seated as well. So just transferring your weight from side to side, and I'll show you from the side. So here, I'll exaggerate slightly. If I do this just on one side, I actually come up a little bit and then down. This is unusual in these movements, but you can see if I do that, you can perhaps see it's almost like I'm drawing a circle with my hip, and then I let my shoulder follow that movement of the hip. Be careful. I'm doing this quite big so you can see it. Be careful you don't start twisting your knee around. It's quite a strong movement. Try that on the other side. So again, here, there, just that up and down movement. A little bit of a turn. Shoulder following the circular movement of your hip. And then we alternate from side to side. And we bring our arms into the movement, just as we did in the chair. Same qualities in our back. Okay, and shake out. So one of the things I like about bear play, as I said when we did it in the chair, is how it really tunes us into a quality of movement within the back. And normally in most of these exercises, we don't sort of do big dramatic movements with the shoulders in that way. And yet we can still begin to get that sense of movement, of energy up and down our back. So here, if we go into this posture, it's actually almost the opposite in some ways, because we're really trying to keep shoulders in line with hips here. So we wouldn't do kind of this or anything, because we want to maintain that upright stance. But we don't want it to become rigid. We don't want to sort of stand and think, well, I mustn't move my shoulders or anything like that. And within your body, that same kind of fluidity in your back that hopefully you began to feel with bear play. I keep calling it bear play. Actually, strictly speaking, it's a part of a longer set of movements called bear play, but I just refer to it as bear play. And then raising your toes and your heel. And then stepping in. On the other side. So as you push down through your foot to go forwards or backwards, that movement goes into your back. So, you know, again, remember that fluid quality. Remember your spine isn't solid. It's quite an articulate structure. And we can sometimes get the feeling that our backs are kind of locked up, but in fact, they're not. Now, using your toes and your heel. Step in. And then, whichever direction is most convenient, taking a few steps. And this is where we see the value of maintaining the alignment of shoulders and hips and so on. Because if I do this, I'm more likely to go over. So we want to maintain this quality of central equilibrium. Change direction now, but not make it tight, stiff, rigid. It's a difficult balance to find. Now, yeah, fisherman cast a net. Now that movement in your back flows into your arms. And on the other side. And bring your feet down. Go back to your chair. So things like rooting down, centering, quietening shouldn't mean losing the potential vibrancy of the body. In fact, quite the opposite. They're qualities that should enable us to release those aspects of it. What we're releasing is the tightness and stiffness. What we're doing is lowering our center of gravity and taking away the need to strain from the upper body and so on and so forth. And the quietness, the stillness sits at the center of the movement. And Tai Chi urged to look for the quality of stillness within the movement. So it's quite a nice image. So embrace tiger, return to mountain. hands come down to rest. You're left with this nice, clear, open feeling in the upper part of the body, the rhythm of your breathing. Maybe that quality of the breath, the fresher, clearer quality of the spring mist. And open your eyes. Lovely. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mike.
Thank you. That was lovely.
It was lovely. And I hope you feel better soon.
Yes, I'm cheered up now. I'm fine.
Yeah.
I'll see you